Hello and welcome to a special preview. I'm Alex McCumbers, a writer over at maroonersrock.com, and I also do a lot of YouTube and Twitch stuff for Forever Classic. This is ARMS, Nintendo's new intellectual property, and we have a lot to unpack. I actually got to play the Global Test Punch, and I've played probably 3 out of the 4 or 5 sessions that were available. It was only available in like hour stretches. But this is Springman, the basic character that we've seen, and I gotta say, this game, I wasn't really interested in playing. Whenever I saw it released at E3, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, I hope it ends up being kind of like Splatoon. But here's the thing, ARMS is fantastic. It is one of my favorite multiplayer experiences that I've played on the Switch, and that I've played in general in a very long time. It's weird, because it's got a lot of components. It's a fighting game, but you're fighting at a range. There's a lot of like dodging and throwing and psyching out your opponent and kind of knowing what they do in a match. And that runs in tandem with like the different equipment you can equip to your character, the different character quirks, and you'll quickly realize that it takes some getting used to, because I lose a lot of the matches early on. In fact, my Springman game is pretty piss poor at the moment, but it's one of those games that it's hard to explain in a way that will make like your hardcore players pick it up. But it's so simple yet so complex at the same time that I think we have another weird hit on our hands. I was super impressed with Splatoon, and I didn't play it much. I never bought it, but ARMS is going to be another one of those situations. It's going to be a game that pretty much everybody has, and there's a select group of people who are really good at it, and that's going to be fun to watch. It's kind of like Smash Brothers. But the thing about ARMS is you can direct your punches, and each punch has different properties. So right now I'm actually playing with the standard button layout. I'm playing with the Joy-Cons in the grip controller, just using the buttons and the stick, and it's a lot more intuitive than I initially thought it would be, because when you're using the Joy-Cons and actually punching, it feels very natural. It works really, really well, but I wanted to see how well it would play in buttons. So I played around a lot with just using a standard controller, and I played a lot with the Switch in portable mode as well, which works surprisingly well. Like, it maintains the proper, like, it just looks nice, it plays nice. I'm really impressed with the overall accessibility of the game, as far as, like, you can play this pretty much how you want. I'll go into a little bit more detail about using just a single Joy-Con, because you can play them with a single horizontal Joy-Con, and you can play with your buddies. In fact, a lot of these matches you'll see will be somebody and a friend playing on their TV, playing against me. But here's where things kind of pick up. I switched to Ninjaro, who is the nimble ninja character. He can like disappear in midair. He's got a lot of really cool aspects. And here's where I kind of start to get to grips with using the grip controller, and things are a lot easier for me from here on out. I don't think I win this match, and that of course is the super move. It's based on whatever fist you have equipped. So for instance, the basic boxing glove ones, I just kind of mash left and right, and it does this really powerful quick combo. Yeah, I ended up losing this match, but I ended up including this match because it has this is a good example of what the game does after you lose in a large group fight, because this is how the spectator camera is kind of defaulted to work, and it's pretty cool. Like, even just watching this game is kind of interesting. You can see the angles of the punches a lot better, and it looks less frantic. This is, of course, a free-for-all match, too, so that's kind of interesting in itself. There's also 2v2s, there's a weird volleyball game that we'll get to later, and it's just a fun time. I can't believe that I enjoy ARMS this much. Alright, here's where things pick up. At this point, I've kind of like, I've got my dodging down, I know how I'm going to fight, I've got strategies, I'm layering my punches, as you saw there. We're not just doing both at the same time, but doing one and then immediately doing the other for that quick double jab. And the stages are also really cool, too. As you can see, they drop items every now and again. That one increases health as long as you're in your aura. There's also another item that increases how fast your super meter charges, which is that little triangle right above the health bar. And that's pretty cool. Some of the items are pretty interesting. There's also a bomb that you can use to... There it is. You can use this bomb to do massive damage if you get the timing right. And I missed him with that. It's got a pretty big radius. Here's those quick jabs that I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of really subtle mechanics. For instance, if you hold the dash button, or if you hold a dash using whatever control method you're doing, it actually gives your weapons a slight charge. And I end up using this a lot later on. And throwing both punches at the same time is how you do a throw. That's what I was attempting there, where the chain was in between the fists. But you can charge up your equipment, and they add different properties. Like, for instance, the ones that I think Ninjaro has gives either an ice or an electric punch. I think it's an electric punch. And you can do this also by blocking, which you can activate by either crossing the Joy-Cons when you have them equipped in like the punching format, or by pressing a separate button on the controller. I believe it's like X or something. But you can use this to kind of like do a little bit more damage, so you're not just flailing punches constantly. There's a lot of strategy involved, actually. And here's one interesting aspect about the 2v2 mode. You are tethered to your opponent. So in this mode, I found that players like to throw a lot, because not only does it grab the person they're throwing, but it also flings the person they're tethered to. So once he's down, I actually, it's a little freeing, because I can move a little bit with more purpose, and I'm not having to worry about, oh, if he gets throwed, I'm going to get hurt. Here's where I take out the Mummy King, I think. Or close to it, anyways. You could also switch targets with the right analog stick. And it's also weird that you aim your punches on the controller with the left stick, which is also the stick you use to control your character. So it's got this weird, like, you have to start moving and stop moving to aim your punch. It's interesting. You could also interrupt those super moves too pretty easily, so you have to time it very specifically. There's where I'm using the dash charge to get a little bit of extra damage. I think I win this one too, actually. I make this ridiculous comeback after all this time. Yep, here we go. GG, mate. I really got the hang of Ninjaro this time around for some reason. Now, the only mode playable in this global test punch is like a party mode, which is basically a server that just matches people together, and it'll do random things like this volleyball minigame, for instance, or it'll do the 2v2s or the free-for-alls. But the party mode was just kind of casual fun. There's gonna be like real competitive modes as well, and I don't know how much time I'll actually spend in that. But for what I've played of ARMS so far, I've been really enjoying it. This volleyball game, not so much. Like, it's a fun distraction, but I don't think it's something I would play regularly. I would rather do the combat. Of course, there's some interesting nuances in this as well about how you position your character, how you time your punches. The entire game is kind of based on that. It's a thinking man's game. There's a lot of strategy and depth where it would be assumed that there wouldn't be as much. For instance, hitting the ball when it's right up in the air like that gives you kind of a spike effect, because it's hard to get a downward angle on the ball. Nintendo's put a lot of really interesting ideas into this. That was really close. I almost lost this, ended up getting a draw. And a lot of volleyball matches end up as draws, which is, I wish they'd include some sort of like quick overtime. But probably half of the matches I did were draws. Now this is an interesting character. This is Helix. He's probably a more defensive, conniving character than most. His body can like glorp together, and he's very blobby. And this is an interesting fight because Helix versus Helix is a very slow battle of attrition. He's got that shield punch that he can throw out and just kind of leave in place to block punches, and then you have to punch over it. So even if you are, like for instance, you'll notice that he does a lot of throwing out the shield, and then he'll hit the back of his own shield. You have to make sure that you're getting that timing right and shooting over your own shield. Which the weapon that I'm using now, the Blorb, if you charge it, actually has like a blinding effect. it'll throw some, like, ink splatters on the screen. But Helix is a weird... He's a more strategic character. You can't just go in brute force. That is one thing that ARMS seems to have in spades, is the character variety. Every character feels different. Every character feels unique and fun to experiment with. The only character I really didn't play a whole lot as was the giant mummy. I found his slowness to be a little off-putting at the time, which is weird, because normally in fighting games, those are my type of characters, are the big brawly dudes. I love, like, Bowser and Smash and Charizard. Like, those are probably my two favorite characters to play as in the new one. And I've always had a history with using, like, stronger, beefier characters. So it's weird that in a fighting game like this, where it's all about planning and strategy, that I shy away from the slower, more methodical, and switch up to the more fast and nimble. Yeah, Helix is weird. He's like the Valdo of this series. And I play a few different matches with him. This is kind of a fun match because it's 3 Helixes. I don't know if there was an unspoken rule in the server at the time that's like, all Helix. Let's do it. Another interesting aspect of ARMS is the different character palettes that we've seen. Some of them are more dynamic than others. Like, for instance, Helix is just a color swap. But, like, Ribbon Girl and Spring Dude, or whatever his name is, they actually seem to change, like, the actual style of the character a little bit. And I really hope they end up using some, like, extra costumes and stuff, because that would just be interesting. This is a pretty good match, too, because we saw the third player disconnect, and the game didn't stop. It paused for a second, and then booted him out. Which is great, because disconnecting in online multiplayer is a big problem, especially in, like, games where you can just duck out. So whatever the reasoning for his disconnection was, the rest of the players aren't going to lose out on a fun match because of it. And that's kind of brilliant. The stages, too, are pretty... They're well designed. For instance, this stage, you can use the springboards on the back to get a little bit more height, so you can come down at a slightly different angle. And you can also throw your opponents into that to bounce them up for more combo potential. And I ended up losing this one. He ended up out-helixing me. It's because he had that shield. That shield's good stuff. Now, here's a character that I think might be slightly unbalanced in the current state. Mechanica, I believe her name is. This big mech girl. Every time I come across her, I could not beat her hardly at all. So I think there's a slight misbalance issue in just how much damage she can take, or the amount of health she has, or something to that nature. And when you put 2 Mechanicas in a ring, it's kind of brutal. Like, we pretty much destroy these two. That bomb hit was really nice. Oh, and you'll notice that the arms themselves will kind of disable. If you do a lot of damage to a particular side, sometimes that arm will be knocked out. And that's kind of interesting. It definitely adds an extra layer to the strategy of, like, crippling your opponent. This is a really cool situation. So my partner knocked out the mummy, and then his partner knocked out my partner, and now it's me and this Helix kind of going at it neck and neck. And he's very low on health. I've barely got a sliver. This kind of evens us out. And at this point, I just want to get that throw in. Right now, it does seem like throws are a little cheap. They do about 150 damage no matter what character you are. And it's very easy to land. And it's kind of hard to predict at this point. Like, I noticed that especially in tag teams or free-for-alls, pretty much everybody's going to immediately start with a throw. And here's an interesting match. I ended up using Min Min because my boy Etika loves Min Min. And I definitely wanted to make sure that I played as most characters, and I really wanted to give her a shot because of that. And I decided to use her standard chakra weapon. She also has these, like, dragon lasers, which I never got the hang of the dragon-like weapons, where there's a kind of pause and then they attack. None of those seem to mesh very well with my style. But there's a lot of customization involved. in each character. So no matter what playstyle you end up running, you're gonna feel at home no matter what you kind of set up for yourself. And at this point, I just wanted to make sure that I had both opponents in my line of sight. I can switch quickly back and forth with the right stick. And it's interesting because I had to manage fighting both of them. And right now, it looks like I'm in a pretty good position, which could be turned around with a super move. And I don't think it will. No, it doesn't. I end up dodging this super move like a beast, and then come around for the charged chakram. Which ended up missing, but I bait him into some other stuff. I don't know if I end this with a throw or a punch. Yeah, I ended up blocking his horizontal attack and sneaking in one. So yeah, I've got one more match for you all. It's going to be me playing as Ribbon Girl actually using a horizontal Joy-Con, which you wouldn't think would be very comfortable. But it ended up, I played 5 or 6 matches like this, and it ended up being a lot more useful than I figured. Like, it felt like I was just playing with a slightly different controller, like a little Mad Catz controller or something. And what we can take away from ARMS in general is that this is going to be, if it gets the sales that I'm kind of hoping for, this could be another smash-out, like, unique hit from Nintendo. Nintendo has proven with Splatoon and ARMS that not only are they making great games with their old IPs and like some of the classic characters through gaming history, but they can also just make new stuff out of nowhere, and it's great. I really wish that Nintendo, or I hope that they end up doing more of this, because these two examples, and we'll see with Splatoon 2 how that turns out, are just perfect examples about how creative Nintendo can get when the cards are on the table. I do hope you guys have enjoyed this this little preview. I'm experimenting with just doing post commentary. And of course, until next time, this has been Alex over at Marooners Rock. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and as always, stay cool.